It's now 2. Oh, thank you. It's now 2:02 p.m. Mahalo for joining us for today's virtual meeting of the Hawaii Tourism Authority's Administrative Standing Committee. As a reminder, if you have a question or would like to testify, please use the Q&A feature or raise your hand. We will recognize you when it's your turn to speak. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we please do the roll call, David?
Yes, at this time, I'll be conducting the roll call. Members, please identify yourself and whether there is anyone else present with you in the room. Chair McCulley.
Here and alone.
Member Belmonte.
Here and alone.
Member Elmore.
Here and alone.
Vice Chair Guy.
Here and alone.
You have quorum, Chair.
Thank you, David. We'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of the October 20th, 2025 Administrative Standing Committee meeting. Can I get a motion to approve? Anyone?
Motion to approve. This is Leah.
Thanks,
Second.
Leah. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Let's see. Is there any discussion? Everybody have a chance to review the minutes? They're quite lengthy. I think they do a beautiful job cleaning up my scatterings and randomness. So thank you, staff. Hearing no other comments, I'd like to have a roll call vote. David?
Okay, Chair McCulley.
Aye.
Member Belmonte.
Aye.
Member Elmore.
Aye.
Vice Chair Guy.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, David. Moving on to agenda item number 4, discussion and action regarding the advisory board's roles and responsibilities. In your handout, you received a staff report to the board. Caroline, could you walk us through this?
Sure, happy to.
Thanks.
So if you can turn to, the attachment number 4 in your packet. The purpose of this agenda item is just to share with you, looking at SB 1571 that was signed by Governor, the roles of the advisory board. And so one of the main roles that the advisory board has, primary duty, is the hiring of the president and CEO of our agency, performance evaluation of the president and CEO based on metrics, KPIs, our state tourism goals, review and approval of HTA plans, such as the strategic plan and our destination management action plans, review of marketing or tourism product development projects under HTA's domain. The board may also interface with government, community, and industry stakeholders to gain insights and to be shared with HTA staff. The board to ensure HTA operates with transparency, including reporting requirements and performance audits.
Caroline, could you hold for 1 second? We need to let John Cole in.
I'll send it just now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
And lastly, the board serves as an oversight advisory capacity to the staff. And so with that, for discussion, one of the things that actually Director Tokioka brought up to us is, how the advisory board identifies, vets and guides tourism promotion and marketing projects. And so in the staff report is a process that we are suggesting that the board members take when they submit proposals to us. So, and this is similar to what was done with the film, tourism film production standing committee and the proposal that was sent for that committee. So one is the board members would propose or request project ideas that they, that you'd like to see regarding promotional marketing. And then those ideas would be presented to the advisory board's respective standing committee for discussion, critique, and prioritization. And then if the advisory board standing committee supports the idea or project, then it would be moved to the full advisory board for discussion and approval. And if the advisory board approves, then it will then be forwarded to HCA staff and DBED leadership to further review and to consider the budget and implementation. And so
Okay.
with, yeah,
Go on.
and so with that, I'd just like to, this is what we would like to propose to the admin committee to make sure that we have a process by which the board presents ideas to staff.
Okay, a formalized process established by policy. Us bylaw, specific to bylaw is how the board would interact with staff and at what level of, for instance, recommendation or oversight of compliance without being able to enforce compliance, right? That's no longer a power of our board, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
Correct.
But what we're talking about here is having some oversight capacity, something where we would have a responsibility to ensure, for instance, the integrity of our financial reporting for the use of public funds. Is that the kind of thing you had in mind?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That would probably remain under the administrative committee, since that was part of the administrative and audit responsibilities under the previous bylaws. Would you agree with that, John Cole?
Oh, John, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But yes, Jim, I would agree for that particular instance of oversight, like,
So prior, we would have the capacity to initiate audits, internal audits, and even an external audit as it was being done. We would no doubt have had ability to interact or interface with that auditor under our previous bylaws and under our powers of 201B. So how do we, are there other state advisory boards that review and have oversight on things like compliance with the procurement and the financial reports?
If I can turn to Talon on this, because we do go through a state audit, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain that process for our financial statements?
Well, now we're just part of the state's ACFR, so that's the annual comprehensive. Gosh, I should know the acronym, but it's like the annual comprehensive financial report.
Mhm.
And so that includes all state agencies, unless you're like a component unit, which we used to be,
Mhm.
then we would have our own standalone financial audit, but now that we're a blended component unit, they said we could be part of the ACFR.
Mhm.
Does that answer the question? Sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I hope it does. So I just wanted to, share out with the committee that we fall within the state audit system, so we are being reviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
by the state audit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
and
so-
that's all done independently by a third party independent auditor.
All right, so formerly we had a budget and finance committee that was directly involved with the development of our budget and had oversight on the reports, as I recall. Correct, Talon?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And at this point, we don't have a budget and finance. And we formerly administrative and audit, I guess, had a arm's length relationship with budget and finance and could provide or initiate an additional audit, an internal audit. Does that sound right, John Cole?
I think so. I think the way things stand now is the admin committee would be used as as a second set of eyes, and they could recommend things, but I don't think they would have the ability to, instigate or start an audit, but they can raise issues to the president and CEO or staff or even the director, I suppose, if they feel there are certain problems that need to be looked into.
Okay, because what I'm wondering is this the role of an administrative oversight committee? Or is this something that could possibly be a standalone once a year kind of would it follow the audit done by the state within the department, or would it precede that so that it would provide perhaps staff's ability to get up to speed, so to speak, or if there was something egregious that was noted? I'm going back to all of those shortfalls and slow payments that we had over the last couple of years, something like that.
Mhm.
As something that might initiate this.
Well, it sounds like, if the admin audit committee wanted to start something, that would be done totally independent of the annual financial audit. Cause no matter what, we're gonna have an annual financial audit
Mhm.
from the third party auditor. That's just what we do every year. But if there's a certain issue that's brought up to the admin audit committee that you wanted to investigate, that would be done totally separately.
Mhm.
And that would probably just focus in on that specific issue versus, like our financial statements.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Jim, regarding the late payments, the issues that happened earlier this year, right now as staff, we took it very seriously and we put things in our procedures so that it won't happen again. So, when we meet, we can report on where things are at as far as payment wise, but I'm trying to keep an open I'd like to keep an open communication with the admin committee. But as far as audits go, we're in the state system and we do conduct that audit that Talon speaks of. So as far as our books, like being in alignment, that's what that audit would take care of. And as far as late payments and all of that, we can keep the board abreast of how we are with payments and all of that. But I don't think it needs, if you're suggesting another audit, it will take resources to do that type of audit.
Yeah, I'm not imagining a conforming to a generally accepted accounting procedures audit. I'm imagining something where the committee might take it upon itself from time to time to interview with the various contractors or the various entities, community groups, and to talk to them about what their status is and how that might reflect somewhat on staff's would reflect directly on staff's ability to meet those groups or contractors' expectations. It might not, and that might not be completely in line with what the law allows or the contract allows. But I think as an advisory board, it's incumbent upon us to provide advice as to how things can improve, not just to expose when something has gone wrong. In fact, that is not part of our statutory framework at this point. If I understand it correctly, John, am I correct that, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. It's more, getting information and looking at things as much as you're allowed as a committee
Yeah,
and raise issues or suggestions to fix or better things.
okay. So Caroline, does that Does that make some sense to you, that that would be the ongoing role, would be more of a, it would be generally hands off, and then from time to time, just make an assessment of how things are flowing within the boards or within the authorities' responsibilities for contract compliance and that type of thing.
Yeah, because what he's saying is the ACFR is more, are we reporting our financial information in accordance with GAAP,
Mhm.
generally accepted accounting principles? He understands that, but he's saying from the admin and audit committee's oversight role, he's just wondering if it's within their powers to say, check on our performance. Like,
Mhm.
are we complying with our contract requirements? Are we paying our bills on time? Like those types of measures aren't necessarily reviewed during the ACFR.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a little separate, it's a little different. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if I can interrupt, here's thinking outside of the box. Let's ask our chief administrative officer what he thinks.
Well, I think Talon was gonna do a quarterly review on the financials.
Well, yeah, I reconcile the financial statements on a quarterly basis, right?
Right.
Mhm, mhm.
So with that discussion with the board,
Mm.
would they be then able to see and make comment?
Uh, Again, I think it's a little, that would serve a little different role than what Chair McCully is asking about, because he's asking more of a like performance, compliance standpoint, like are we meeting our contractual obligations with our vendors
Mhm.
versus the financial statements. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm reporting the financial information accurately at that time. Versus what he's wondering, like, are we paying our bills on time? It's a little different, different purpose.
Well, I think if they're out and they're talking to our vendors and the vendors are saying that they're not getting paid, they should have the right to question.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I'm just saying that wouldn't necessarily be revealed through my financial statements. Yeah,
Okay.
that wouldn't, yeah.
In addition, I'd like to clarify something, when Talon made his assessment and related what I had said. I'm really interested, I think, in positing the spirit rather than the letter necessarily for this advisory board. Do you follow that? Like I said earlier, there's the contract and there's the state requirements for compliance with the contract. But then there's also expectations of people who may or may not be completely vested in the contract. I'm thinking particularly of community groups that are downstream from our contractors. I get feedback from them in my community. They want to know what's going on with what CNHA or HVCB or HC, are doing, what's going on with the island chapters. So, okay, so that was what was kind of fueling my, trying to flesh out this concept of still having some oversight, some means of establishing a way to confirm compliance, with what used to be called the code of conduct in our bylaws. Where's my old bylaws?
I think that all aligns, so in the event that you come across community members that are not getting paid, I believe that that needs to be reported to us so that we can act on it and find what the block is, so we can streamline payments to them.
Yeah. Here I found that the old Administrative and Audit Standing Committee shall be responsible to establish and enforce a code of conduct to ensure the financial integrity of the authority's management of public funds. So taking that language, enforce a code of conduct, and applying it across all the previous responsibilities of things executed by the authority, that are reported in the financial statements, or general management of the contracts. So I'd like to talk to John Cole about, getting some verbiage that would provide for that, for this administrative committee's means of establishing a mechanism for that oversight. You think you can draft something, John?
Yeah, my only question is that, I mean, it was in the language in the previous admin committee about the establishing and enforcing a code of conduct. I was just wondering if there is a written document, or is that just kind of a phrase describing, you know, what you would be looking at or enforcing?
Carolyn, do you know of any code of conduct in our general policies?
No, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know offhand. I guess I'm also thinking, previously the board had a fiduciary responsibility, so that's why these things were written in. Now that we are part of, we lost our procurement code, we're part of the state system. We were back in procurement. I'm wondering if that also changes things as well.
Yes,
and I
definitely
can-
does.
Yeah, so I can look for that, but sorry, I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've got the big book of policies right here, but I didn't think to prep myself and find a code of conduct until John just asked that question, but I will after this meeting. I won't interrupt our flow here. So other members, please, do you have anything to observe regarding the staff report to the board on the advisory board's roles and responsibilities? You're raising your hand, Joel?
I do. I just want to make sure that this topic we're good. We kind of got a sense of the next steps. Because I'm taking us in a little bit of a different direction. So I want to make sure I don't have any comments on what you guys are talking about now.
But your comments are under this agenda item.
Yeah, I believe so, on the discussion section, right? It's a little different. When I was looking at the discussion, I was kind of excited about the kind of identifying a process to propose ideas. And I kind of thought that's where these bullets were going, proposed to the board, and then it would go to the standing committees and then come back to the board. And I
Yes.
just wanted to see, it says, I know this is kind of probably a minor detail, but it says in the promotion and marketing of projects. And I was wondering if this is also the process that we would outline if we were trying to propose ideas that might be more of if it's a community engagement process or any other projects that we think might be fit in with the authority. Is this the process for proposing ideas to the authority? Because I heard advisory board member Mauricia mention an exciting project you were talking about, and I was like, oh, I want to, I have ideas, and I've been working within our community, and it was exciting to see this discussion topic because it did look like a pathway to propose ideas, but it specifically says the promotion and marketing of projects. And some of my projects may not be tourism promotion and marketing, but I think they do fall in a good alignment with the authority.
Mhm.
So either we want to expand that, or is it cool if I just bring anything to you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you can expand it, as long as it fits within our HRS and what we are, it's in our statute for us to do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So I can modify that.
Okay, so Joel, continue if you wish to
No, that's
clarify that, how that might be written in, or
yeah, I don't have the words right now, but I think if there's a way to expand on that a little bit for tourism promotion and marketing and, the broader community benefit or something that we could kind of expand on that a little bit would be great. And I can come up with some words if you guys like and send them in.
okay.
I'm
Go on.
sorry. With the words tourism product development suffice, it's written up in the facts. So maybe it was
Where does it say that? Sorry.
tourism product development projects.
Right, is that in here somewhere already that I'm not seeing?
It's item number 4, review marketing projects and initiatives, and it says the board may review marketing or tourism product development projects under HTA's domain.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you, that works.
So I'll include a vet and guide tourism promotion, comma, marketing, comma, tourism product development projects.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. I
Okay,
mean, if everybody's agrees to that, I mean, I just want to kind of expand on that definition so it wasn't just promotion and marketing.
yeah,
So to members of this committee, this is a agenda item for discussion and action. We don't necessarily have to take an action. We can just have a prolonged discussion and ask staff to provide us with clarifications or a draft or something like that. And so we don't necessarily have to end this discussion with a motion. So don't feel like we're obliged to fine tune our language at this time. What we want to do is keep making progress.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I think, like I said, if that provides advisory board members with the opportunity to propose ideas to the authority, then that's great. I just a little clarification, but it sounds like that will, and yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a question for John Cole. When we were talking about advisory boards and their oversight and discussion on matters that are financial and legal when we don't have a fiduciary responsibility. That kind of on a parallel and the discussion under this advisory committee's agenda, how do the sunshine laws apply to an advisory committee when you're not dealing with things that are statutorily defined? And what made me think of that is when the idea of I think it was in, say, our interaction outside of our meetings with tourism elements. And generally speaking, we're restricted to 2 members or fewer, in that interaction. But if where does that sunshine law end? Does it ever end? And I'm not trying to get out of it. I'm just trying to get clarification on how those laws extend.
Yeah, are you talking about the full advisory board or a committee of
A
that?
committee, when our committee is acting.
I mean, since the advisory board, or I'm gonna call it quasi or partial advisory board of HTA as it currently stands, is unusual. I mean, because it does have decision-making authority in specific areas, sunshine law would apply, and oftentimes even with a fully advisory board, sunshine law applies. Just because, I mean, they have some force to it, and it depends how it's created by statute or executive order or things like that. And given that, the full HTA advisory board, sunshine applies to it, I would recommend that the committees do as well. I mean, even if everything coming out of them is advisory and not necessarily a decision that HTA as an agency or entity has to follow.
Okay, it's just something I thought about, and
Not sure if that exact situation has occurred before, but
yeah.
not to my knowledge, but
Okay, Carolyn, after this discussion, can you fine tune this and hone it down? And then which of these would become components of other committees, for instance, reviewing marketing projects and initiatives? This would be a board matter in the whole, or would we assign that to something as a subset or an individual power of various committees to do something like that?
yeah, I think it would be assigned to the relevant standing committee. So in the case of marketing, it would go to the the brand standing committee. And product development, tourism product development would be Ho'okahua, Hawaii. And then anything related to film would be Marisha's committee, film tourism.
Yeah.
And then David wanted to add,
It's covered under number 5.
you got, okay.
Stakeholder engagement. The board may interface with government, community, and industry stakeholders to gain insight to be shared with HTA. So any issues in terms of anything out there, they have the right to bring it to us, address it.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, what we're trying to do is flesh out our bylaws so that there's no ambiguity in the future about what board members are doing or bringing to the committee or to the board and how they interact with staff.
Mhm.
That we're under the umbrella of this policy, which is what a bylaw is a policy.
Mhm.
Okay, any other comment or discussion on agenda item 4? No, thank you, everybody, for your insights. I don't see any hands up. Is there anybody in the community? I'm sorry, I should have asked that earlier. Are there any other participants or hearing none?
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, thank you. I'm going to close agenda item 4 and move on to agenda item 5, discussion and action regarding the charter of the Administrative Standing Committee. Okay, so this is a discussion. We don't have a motion here. I didn't provide a handout. What I wanted to do is to have a handout ready for our next meeting, which will precede our December meeting, and which is, I think, the 18th. Is that still correct, Caroline or David? Are we still scheduled for December 18th?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you have the draft of the bylaws that staff had disseminated, we had discussed these in our previous meeting, if you review the minutes. And one of the things we agreed to is we would not have a specific role in auditing. That would not be put back into our bylaw. I think Lisa Paulson made that observation and that recommendation. We know that we have a CEO responsibility because staff spelled it out for us as the sole initial power of the standing committee. I proposed and would like language that states that we are the proper committee for oversight, establishment, and development of the bylaws. So John, can you draft specific language in a concise sentence that avoids my verbosity and allows for a second sentence in our bylaw, oversight, development and oversight of bylaws? We know that we have, and we discussed at length, the legislative element of this committee. We know that we were specifically paralleled with the CEO search permitted interaction group. By implication, the administrative committee would have that direct interest in the CEO search. So we talked about the oversight and responsibility for legislative affairs. And so I referred to the fact that in the past we've always drafted and submitted a resolution for the representation of the authority in the legislative session, and we specify our CEO and usually the chair of the board, and then frequently it could be the chair of the permitted interaction group or some other members. So I would propose that we resume that responsibility of legislative oversight or legislative or interaction of the board with legislation, that this committee would be the one that staff would first pass legislative proposals passed for oversight or advice prior to the board. And I'm not trying to be a choke point. It's just as things develop, it's easier to talk within a subset than in the board at large. So it's something that occurred in the past. So I would recommend legislative and government affairs oversight as the third power. Any comments about what administrative might also include or how we might? Yes, did I see a hand up? No, don't see a hand up. I'm going to go back to for this CEO responsibility, though. I had questions that arose from the staff report to the board under agenda item 4. It says in item 1, the board's primary duty is to recruit, select, and appoint the president and the CEO. There's a second element to that, which is that the board should set the president and CEO's duties, responsibilities, and remuneration or paid holidays, vacations, leaves, and any other benefits as it deems necessary. We shall also set the length of the president and CEO's term of service pursuant to written contract. Now, there's a lot of hard work in that statement or that direction by this SB 1571. Because there is a policy that actually constrains this board's ability to do what was just stated in this bill. So is there clarification on that, Caroline, that we could include for the committee's oversight or committee's review or the permitted interaction groups? Can staff start putting together a report on that?
I'm sorry, a report on,
what our responsibilities are in defining the president and chief executive officer's duties, responsibilities, et cetera. We can go back to the previous contract and use that as a template. But we also know, I know from previous discussion, that there's an internal policy, and I don't think it's written, but it's in state practice now, administrative practice, that this position is not to exceed the lieutenant governor's package.
yes.
That's correct?
Yes,
Okay. Is that written somewhere? It's not in this law.
yes, I can provide that information to you. It was that is what DBA director had advised us.
Okay, so I'd like to have at least this, if not this committee, if it has to be confidential, the CEO permitted interaction group be able to review that so that we know what we're getting into.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mhm.
That was in item 1, hiring the president and CEO. The second was the performance evaluation. If we're going to have a performance evaluation of the president and CEO, should that be under the administrative committee? Or should that be a standalone committee whose role is simply to bird dog the CEO? Discussion. I've taken a vow of silence. I've asked for discussion.
I mean, I guess my only comment is not having been here prior, knowing what worked better or what worked best or didn't work previously. I mean, if there was something that worked previously and we can try to re-implement that, that sounds great. But I just don't have that experience to share. Like, oh, that was the best path where we had that kind of, increased oversight on a regular basis or not. Or is that even permitted?
Can I say something? I do know I've never been through an evaluation process for the CEO of HTA. But other clients of mine, state agencies and some administratively attached with boards, a lot of them will do an annual evaluation and use a pig to do it. So they can, meet when they need to. They don't, it kind of keeps things private. And then they make a recommendation to the board on, the results of the evaluation, if it's satisfactory. A lot of those clients can suggest raises, but I'm not sure with, the limitations we have on, matching the lieutenant governor's salary, if that would be part of what a pig or the full board would decide. But I think that process of using a pig can ease the evaluation, and then this admin committee can make recommendations like is currently written in there related to the evaluation of how to do it, what things should be looked at, maybe the weight of those criteria or things you're looking at and things like that.
If I'm hearing the question correctly, Chair, it sounds like you were looking for discussion on whether or not the folks that are hiring are going to also be the folks that are evaluating. Is that correct? One and the same? Generally
Yes.
speaking, I'm
Yes,
asking
let
for,
me-
yeah,
Yeah, let me, the CEO search committee ends when we
Right.
report to the board. So it cannot continue unless we drum up a new pig. But okay, so keep going.
Yeah, so within the administrative committee though, so then would the evaluation fall, if I'm hearing the question right, are we asking if the evaluation should fall within the administrative committee, or do we create a new committee for evaluation? Is that what we're asking?
That's what I posed as a question. This would be the time to address
Yeah.
it.
So my opinion, just I feel like because we did create a different committee for hiring, I don't see why we wouldn't create a committee for evaluation. I feel like, I mean, I don't know what the administrative committee did before, like member Guy, I'm new here to this one, but I feel like that seems like it would, it would make sense as far as the track that we've already started running down, and here's how we did it for hiring, here's how we do it for evaluation. To me, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I can tell you from prior experience, we did have a duty to establish the criteria and make recommendations related to the evaluation of the president and chief executive officer. So including that language in this bylaw for this committee would be relatively easy. And if that committee then said, for purposes of this year, we're going to establish a permitted interaction group that could then, using the rules of sunshine, to provide for confidentiality of matters pertaining to personnel matters, in this instance, the CEO. So I can envision that being a process. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was trying to describe.
Okay.
Sorry if that wasn't clear.
David, what do you think of the mechanics of that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get that written in, staff, for the proposal, yeah? That it would include that evaluation. Now, here's something
I
I
see
don't wanna-
Leah's hand up. So sorry, I'm not sure if you see, there's another hand up. I just want to make sure that Leah gets
Oh,
a chance
hi,
to talk.
Leah. Okay,
Hi.
Leah.
So just so I understand this correctly, so for the evaluation purposes, we're considering creating another pig to allow that discussion. So what about this current CEO search pig? Are we not allowed, because we're involved with the hiring process, and so forth, and we're the ones that helps to decide, not helps to decide, but is part of that process. Would we also be able to be part of that evaluation process within the same pig, or do we still have to create a new one? Hopefully that makes sense.
It does, and I tried to, and I unfortunately interrupted Leah to answer that question. I'm sorry, Marcia, to interrupt the question.
Okay.
So a permitted interaction group is is chartered because there's a question to be answered, something to investigate or something. So here we have a question to answer. CEO recommendation to the board. How do you go through the evaluation process, maintaining confidentiality when you have sunshine? So you do it under the permitted interaction group because you're dealing with matters of personnel. However, when we make a recommendation to the board, we've answered the question. We no longer exist. This permitted interaction group has one report to give. All permitted interaction groups just give one report, and that ends them. So if we're going to have an ongoing evaluation, it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be an ongoing. I think, tell me what you think, John. It would be, the administrative committee would be discussing evaluation or oversight of the CEO and say, we've run into this situation. Let's recommend to the board that there be a permitted interaction group established to answer this question regarding this matter. It would be a one-off rather than a ongoing star chamber.
Right. I mean, typically, like I said, my other clients generally do it on a yearly basis. We could pick a time frame if you want to do that and do an evaluation every year. And I think some of the past contracts, they used to have the opportunity for a bonus, which was based on an evaluation. So I don't think the full board did it. I think at least for lower management staff, the president and CEO did it. I'm not sure who would have done it for the president and CEO if they were done. But we can set like a yearly or different time period if you want. And like Chair McCully was saying, other members, that yeah, once a pig kind of does its work and reports out to the board, it ends. So the current CEO search pig will end once they make their recommendation to the board. But the same members or different members could be on, a pig set up to do an evaluation. But that process to make the pig and the pig do its work and report out would, repeat every time you want to do an evaluation.
Thanks, John. So in the statute, it says the board shall set the term of service and pursuant to written contract. So term of service, is this simply the period of time, John, or is it the terms to include the performance?
I think that particular line that they added in the new law this past session was meant to be the length of time. But I mean, the previous language that they didn't change is still there about, setting duties, responsibilities, holidays, vacation leaves, and things like that, and other benefits. I mean, those are other terms of the contract. So I think the board still has the authority to determine those things.
So I bring this up to this committee and to, for future consideration, that when we set the duties and responsibilities, some of them in that contract should include reporting to this advisory board on an ongoing basis as requested by the board, so that there is some capacity for direct oversight. Should, for instance, we for some reason hire a king or a queen who decides that they are the Hawaii Tourism Authority independent because we're an advisory board. And if you look at what our powers are, almost everything we do has to go to the CEO for their review and consent, except for this thing of hiring that CEO and setting their terms, their duties and responsibilities. So we could do a circular recall of some rudimentary power, which is we're setting the responsibilities, the duties and responsibilities. And when we set the term of service, are we setting a term of service that is a finite term of service? And is it finite dependent upon, or is there some optionality? Is it a year-to-year automatic renewal except but for duties and responsibilities being reviewed by board? So it would give the board a potential to keep the CEO on their toes because the advisory board could say, well, you know what? You're not quite making the duties and responsibilities, so we're going to remove that option. You're not going to be renewed. Is that a power we have potentially, John? Or is it solely the governor's discretion as far as the because we're not going to do it on a cause basis at the moment. We're doing it at the end of a term, which we have the power to establish.
Right, but I think any employment contract would include terms for termination, I would say. So you would, list the things that would cause the president CEO to lose their position. And as far as time goes, you could do it for 1 or 2 years with, options for continuing. But, and Chair McCauley, at one point you had asked me the question, who could say we got a president CEO that may not break any of the terms of the contract per se, but isn't working out and the whole board doesn't like it, and staff or the director and even the governor don't like it, who can fire him? I've been kind of asking around here and nobody is sure. I don't think a position has been set up like this before. But the most likely from my discussions would be, I mean, since the governor appoints, even though he doesn't have discretion in the name that goes to the Senate for confirmation, he would probably ultimately, if it were litigated, have the ability to remove as well, just given what the appointment power of the governor generally would entail.
I expect that to be the answer. So what I'm trying to do here is, for discussion purposes, feel the board's general sense or mood about, in duties and responsibilities, establishing that reporting requirement, and under term of service, having some optionality for continued term, so that we can't call someone on the carpet and say, you're dismissed. That's the governor's prerogative. But we can say, if things don't improve, we are not going to extend your term of service as you might expect.
It makes sense to me, and I think given the language of the statute as it is, it would, be legal or lawful.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to belabor this, and I think it's going to come up more in the permitted interaction group when it gets into those details. But I did want this administrative committee and under sunshine to start discussing this and thinking about it, because it is central to our mission. Okay. Any other discussion regarding the charter of the Administrative Standing Committee? I've given staff some 4 items that would be part of section 3. And Caroline or David or John, if that's unclear, then we can follow up with a conversation. And also, rarely I'm on Oahu, but I'll be there next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I could potentially carve out some time to come down and grace the center with my presence. So there's that. All right, at that point, do we have any comments from the community?
No comments.
All right. All right, so that ends the discussion on agenda item 5. Agenda item 6, discussion and action regarding the draft bylaws of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. I'd ask staff to poll or ask other chairs of other standing committees if they have recommendations that they'd like to see their bylaw developed or minimized. Have we gotten any response from anybody, Caroline, or is this something that we should put out a more definitive call to action?
We didn't get anything, but if you'd like us to resend it out to everyone, we can.
Yeah, I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about the Administrative Standing Committee's role. I would hope that the other chairs have noticed some things that weren't included that they think might be or should be. Let's see, who are our chairs in this meeting?
So-
Leah. No, is it Leah? No, Marcia is film production, aren't you?
I am film production.
Yeah.
And section 6 of our draft bylaws, which addresses film production, I feel is sufficient, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was well written as well, as far as an initial committee, and just getting started and having a charter that allows you to move forward. Um, who's sports tourism?
Chris West,
Okay, he's not here. And Ho'okahua?
I believe that's Lisa Polson.
Okay, and she had to absent, and then branding is Kim?
It's Kim Agas, yes.
Okay. All right, they're not here to defend themselves, so let's delete all those committees. Strike that from the record. Okay. All right. I'm not going to discuss action on their bylaw, on their committee. But I would like staff to put out a note that if they are interested in amending, so to speak, the charter of their committee, this would be the right time to do it, because when the recommendation for the revising of the bylaw for administrative committee, where administrative committee takes responsibility for establishing bylaws, oh heck. Where'd I go?
We see you.
You do?
Yeah, we see you and hear you.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't curse.
Thank
Because I
you.
have nothing. I have nothing on my board. I hit my there I am. Okay. So then we would have to do it through that more formalized process, and this time we could just pass it to the board at the next meeting if they have anything to recommend.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move on to our final agenda item, discussion and action on the CEO search. So as you know, at our last committee meeting, or last full board meeting, we confirmed a letter. We passed it by motion, and after that, we had a discussion, and there were some proposals made for some things should be included perhaps in that letter. I did discuss this with Director Tokioka, and on reviewing the letter, he felt the letter was broad enough that it could go out as is, since that's what the board had passed, and that any clarification or follow-up would likely come out of the advisory committee or the CEO search pig. There are other applicants that are apparently appearing. They're contacting Director Debed directly, and there are a number of applicants included in the 23 that have contacted DBED directly and are anxious for a response, any response. So I told the director the review, final review. Caroline, did you work with him today on that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did
On
you
the
receive?
letter?
Did you receive from me the email to director?
Yeah, I saw the email to director, but I didn't communicate with him anything regarding the letter.
Okay. So staff or members, as you are aware, I believe DBED is in sole control of access to communicate with these applicants. So everything is going to route through them. There's another reason for that. Do you know what that is, Caroline or David?
I don't.
Yeah. You mean why the letter would go through the director's office?
Yes,
Or-
at this time, because we're not the same HTA we were then, right? We might say that our CEO search pig is still in control, but is it?
Yeah, so the direction that I received from Director Tokioka is that it would run through his office.
It would run, meaning the entire process would run through his office?
Meaning, yes, working with him. So you and him will be working together on it.
For
And which
purposes of
which is what you're
communication.
doing. Yeah, and which
Okay.
is exactly what you're doing with him.
All right. So all the powers that are enumerated in 1571 continue to support the power of the pig to go through this hiring process. But for purposes of communication, instead of however it might have been previously if we had executed this during HTA's governing or policy board, instead, whatever is our result will be then passed through the director to the applicants.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. That was convoluted, but I think was that accurate, John?
As far as I know,
Yeah.
mean,
What would we have done last year if we'd pulled
I
this
didn't know
off?
he was doing all the communication, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right. Any of members think about the CEO search and where we're going on this? And once this letter goes out, it's not meant to be it's just the beginning of the search committee's work, is getting this letter out to tell everybody that they're still being considered. I have to work up an agenda for the permitted interaction group, and I want to include the manager from our search company as the participant in that. So it has to be when they're available. And the question is whether that could be a hybrid. And in the past, we've done things like had committee meetings or permitted interaction groups the same day as board meetings, so that if you happen to be able to travel to Oahu, we could then have that committee meeting in person without undue expense. And there's some value to that if we're interviewing with a headhunter. We'd like to be able to, just how when you're doing an interview, you don't want to do an interview over Zoom. You'd like to do it face to face so that you can get all the visual cues and the mood, the vibe. And I think we'd like to do that with this search director. What do you guys think?
I
I
agree, Chair.
I agree as well.
Yeah. So because we're not going to have another meeting till the 18th of December. So what I'd like to do is perhaps draft an agenda, a proposed agenda for December 18th, and the invitation to the administrator of the search and or previous, they're no longer under contract. If they are available, then I'd like to try to coordinate that. And what we'll do is the draft agenda can be circulated. Can that be circulated just to the PIG members, John, or does it have to? Because they're all members of the PIG. The PIG's been chartered, right? Or is,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has.
I don't know if you would need an agenda for a pig.
No, but I'd like the
It's
members.
good for information for the members, of course. but-
Yeah, because they're all new to the PIG.
Okay.
I think the only remaining member is Kimberly that's in the PIG. So I'd like to maybe give them an outline
Sure.
from staff of what's going on in the past.
Yeah.
And where we're at now, right?
Well, certainly makes sense, and yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't really fall under sunshine for the pig purposes, so.
Okay. So members, because you're all members of the PIG and a couple others, well, that's what I plan to do, okay? Any suggestions? You're good? Okay. So no further discussion on the CEO search. Agenda item 8. Is there any further discussion? Does anybody have anything to bring to the meeting at this time? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time and your contributions. Mahalo plenty. And David, take it away.
Okay, this concludes the Hawaii Tourism Authority's Administrative Standing Committee meeting for Friday, November 7th, 2025. Thank you very much. Hui hou.
Ahoy,
Thanks, everyone.
65 minutes.
Sorry I was late.
Don't do that again.